the rise of social media, we have an entire segment of influencers who brag about how they managed to find a way to make enough money to retire in their 20s or 30s. Now, all they do is post pictures of their mansions, Lamborghinis or private jets until someone exposes them that they have been renting out their mansion or that luxury car or the private jet. Yes, I'm talking about you, Dan. Definitely, there are some people who manage to make millions by building a tech startup while still being in college. But that's an exception, especially if you consider that 9 out of 10 startups fail. I'm not trying to discourage anyone, feel free to give it a try, but the question that I want to focus on in this video is, can your average guy retire early? Is it possible for someone who works 9 to 5 to retire within a span of 10 or 15 years? If you are in your 20s, can you retire by your 30s without starting a business or winning the lottery? The answer is yes. There is an entire movement on the internet called FIRE, Financial Independence Retire Early Movement. They claim that if you live frugally throughout your 20s and invest the vast majority of your income, you can retire by your 30s and never have to work again. Your investments will cover all of your bills, so you can finally quit your job and start your journey of traveling around the globe in 80 days. You might not be able to afford a private jet or live in a $50 million mansion, but nonetheless, you can maintain your normal standard of living without working another day in your life. In this video, we are going to find out how much money you need to save to retire by your 30s, how should you invest your money to be able to do that, and what is the rule of 4%. If you take a look at what exactly makes rich people rich is that you will find out that they all have the capital that keeps earning them money, even if they do nothing. Imagine having $1 billion in a savings account that pays you 3% interest annually. That is $30 million, enough money to provide you with a super luxurious life. Which means you can spend $30 million every single year and your wealth won't decrease even by a single penny. And that's what separates rich people from the rest. Most people can't break the cycle of poverty or the middle class trap because they make just enough to live comfortably. Even if they end up making more, they move to a bigger house, get a better car, and level up their standard of living. There is nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal of money is to improve the quality of your life, especially when you will be able to pass that house to your child and make his life a lot easier. If he is smart enough, he will repeat your footsteps and at least acquire another house throughout his life and then pass 2 properties to his child. After repeating this process over and over, after a few generations, your grandchild maybe will be left with multiple properties or at least some wealth to provide him with the comfort of financial freedom. But that looks like a dumb strategy to most people. Why would you work so hard and prevent yourself from all the pleasures life has to offer so that your grandkids would live a better life? It's their problem. They will figure it out. So here is a better idea. The FIRE movement claims that you don't have to work your entire life to build wealth. All you have to do is dedicate 5, 10 or 15 years of your life to building wealth. And that's it. By living extremely frugally and saving over 80 or 90% of your income, you can save enough capital that you can invest and live off from the interest that your capital will generate. That was impossible a few generations ago, but we're lucky to be young in 2021. The world has developed to the point where anyone who is born or at least lives in a first world country has the opportunity to break that cycle of poverty and become financially free within a span of a decade. As of 2018, the average household income is a little over $63,000. Hypothetically, since the average return on an index fund that invests in the S&P 500, for example, is 10%, by saving $630,000 and investing it in such a fund, every year you will be able to withdraw $63,000 and your initial investment of $630,000 will still be there. $630,000 is of course a lot of money, but nonetheless possible for most people. Surgeons, doctors, or engineers easily make over $100,000 a year after taxes. By saving just a little over half of their income for 5 or 6 years, they can save that much money. Sounds like a good plan, right? Well, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. The inflation rate in the US is around 2 to 3%, which means if you don't want the real value of your investment to decrease every year by 2 or 3%, you should not withdraw more than 7% of your investments. On top of that, if you want your investment to grow by at least a small margin, like 2% maybe, you're left with just 5%. If you also deduct another percent for market fluctuations, you're left with just 4%. And that's what the rule of 4% is. So if you want to be able to withdraw $63,000 and be confident that inflation won't wipe out your wealth over time, you have to invest $1.5 million in an index fund like the S&P 500. That might look like a big sum of money, but nonetheless, it's realistic. With a high-paying job and frugal life, it's possible to achieve that in give and take 10 years. What's important to note here is that you can't achieve that by having a regular job. No offense, but if you're earning enough just to cover your basic needs, there is no way you can save that much money. So the idea is you should work on getting a high-paying job but still live like a student and invest over 80% of your income, and in 5 to 10 years, you will be able to retire for good. What's also important to note here is that what kind of retirement do you want? Do you want to drive a Ferrari and spend over $200,000 a year? Then you will have to work for a lot more and invest $2, $3, or $5 million so that you can confidently spend $200,000. But if you're fine with spending $50,000 a year, you can retire a lot faster. It all comes down to your spending habits. But do not start investing unless you first take care of your debts, especially high interest rate debts. It doesn't make sense to get a 10% rate of return when you have a 20% credit card debt. But this rule doesn't apply to your mortgage. With a mortgage, you are building equity at least. So focus first on getting rid of your high interest debts and then move towards savings. Regardless of how brilliant this plan looks like, it has its problems. What is the point of sacrificing the best years of your life just to be able to retire earlier, especially your 20s? These are the years when you want to party, hang out, and experience new things. Besides, I don't think that most people want to retire at 30 and literally do nothing after that. Work isn't just about earning money, but it gives you meaning and self-fulfillment, especially when you love your job. So here is a slightly better idea. Instead of denying yourself even the basic pleasures, don't strive to retire at 30 or 35, but rather focus on building an investment portfolio that can at least cover your basic needs such as shelter and food. Instead of saving over 80% of your income, say 30 or 40%. In 10 or 15 years, you might not be able to completely retire, but if you want to quit your job, take a break, experience something new, you can easily afford that. By withdrawing 4% out of your investment portfolio, you can easily pay the rent and put some food on the table. And no matter how glamorous the idea of financial freedom looks like, do not sacrifice your health for it. Because financial freedom means nothing if you end up losing your health in the process. Do not eat garbage, for example, just to save an extra dollar. Once you reach that point where you're financially free, where you don't have to accept a certain job for the sole purpose of how much that it pays, you start making slightly different decisions. Now, since we are at the end of the video, pull out a notebook and a pen and answer these basic questions. How much money do I need to maintain my standard of living? How much do I need to invest so that I can withdraw 4% every year to maintain my standard of living without touching the principal? And how much can I save every single month? Then you will find out how many years you have to save to be financially free. And finally, do you want 2 free stocks from Webull to start investing? Of course you won't. So use the link in the description and get your 2 free stocks. And now it's time to give this video the thumbs up that it deserves. And if you want to know more about money and investing, then subscribe.